as fairy tales that may sound or whatever, like I really do believe there's hope, and it's exactly what you always preach on this podcast, is it comes down to every single person individually, and it comes down to us doing what a citizen of this country, what a good human being is supposed to do, and what we should do, because that's ultimately how we actually take the power back.
Let's go.
Welcome to Citizen. We've got a very special guest today in Wendt. You're the founder and CEO of Official Patriot Gear.
I am.
And amongst other things, I guess.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm just a normal guy. I love the fact that I'm on this podcast called The Citizen, because anytime I'm out and about and people recognize me from like social media or whatever, they, it's always like, oh, it's so nice to meet you. I follow you. But it's just like, dude, I'm just a normal guy. I really am. I really I have 2 kids, a wife, just trying to build a business and do my best to, I don't know, I guess salvage what's left of everything.
Yeah, no kidding.
You know what I mean? But no, I've been in sales and marketing for pretty much my entire life. I started door to door. Got really good at that really fast. My dad was a door to door salesman for life insurance, and he just absolutely crushed it. And so I think it kind of just, apple didn't fall far from the tree.
Yeah.
So I was in door to door for over a decade. I knocked, and then I managed, and then eventually I actually trained reps all around the country, and then I actually built the training systems, and I ran all the training for leadership and reps, as well as all the marketing for the company. So just really involved in that kind of stuff. And then, yeah, man, 2020 hit, and like a lot of other people, I think the closet conspiracy theorist in me kind of came out as I was looking around at things, specifically with the riots. When the riots started going down, I was like, I saw it for what it was.
Right.
And I started getting loud about it on my platform. And I had a pretty decent following. I was pretty well known in the sales and business space. And I always say this, but at the time, my wife was like, you're an idiot. I'm like, what are you doing? You're going to burn everything you've built to the ground.
Right.
Because everybody's going to think you're a psycho. You know what I mean? But dude, it was the exact opposite. My following exploded. And what I realized was not only were people not aware of what was actually going on and just totally, buying into the bullshit on TV, but also they were like begging for somebody to speak out.
Sure, yeah.
And so yeah, it was the exact opposite. So then I started to make like highlights on my Instagram. My Instagram was my primary platform, and I started making these highlight movies of different, conspiracy theories and things like that. And it just got to a point where my following had grown a ton, and I didn't want to be the political content guy.
Yeah.
There's enough of those. You know what I mean? So I was like, I want to do something with this influence. And so we rallied all these people together that were following me, and we actually raised, hundreds of thousands of dollars for businesses that were going to close their doors during the lockdowns, veteran organizations, child trafficking organizations, just all kinds of stuff. And through that, it got to a point where I was like, okay, all these people are doing these amazing things, these patriotic things.
Yeah.
And all of them want to talk about it, but they won't, because they're afraid of their jobs being, they're afraid of losing their jobs. They're afraid of being canceled. They're afraid of whatever, all this garbage that's going on. And so I was like, let's create a way for them to represent it. And again, at the time, dude, I still had my career. I was the CMO of a major sales company. And so I was just, doing this on the side. But my buddy owns a fulfillment company in Idaho where they print, ship, fulfill everything. And so I was like, dude, let's create a t-shirt. So I made the Patriot tee, the simple green Patriot tee. And I was like, that'd be kind of cool if we could get like 50 people to buy this, and rep it. And dude, it just exploded. We did like 300 plus in 2 days.
Wow.
And I was like, all right, like, what's this all about? And then it just kept spiraling from there. People, make a hoodie, make a hat, make a beanie. So we just kept going. And it was an Etsy shop at the time. And yeah, dude, it just kept exploding. And one day I came home and Etsy had shut us down for like hate speech and violent organizations or something like that. Keep in mind, literally the only thing that was on there was a green hoodie, a green t-shirt, a green hat, and a green beanie that had an American flag and said Patriot on it. That was it. You go on Etsy right now and you can find all kinds of actual violent things, right? Especially when you're talking about like Trump being beheaded and all kinds of other crazy stuff. But anyway, I don't hold that against Etsy because I know a lot of people are like, oh, Etsy, F Etsy. It's like, dude, truth be told, someone probably reported us and was a troll or whatever, and that was because they did reinstate it like a few days later. But I'll tell you what, it was the best thing that's happened to us because that night, you know, I got home and I told my following, I was like, dude, it's done. Like, sorry guys, it was a fun run, you know. And everybody was like, no, make another store.
Right.
And I was like, all right, I didn't know anything about e-commerce. I was literally just selling t-shirts off Instagram. And so we built a Shopify that night, and dude, in like 4 days we did 27 grand, and it was nuts. It just absolutely exploded. And then from there I was like, okay, so now people have this product, and they're doing it because it represents something, but now how do we make them feel like they're a part of it? And so that's when I invented Patriot Friday. So every single Friday I'll do like a clip from a movie or something like that with some heavy metal because I'm a metalhead.
Same.
Yep. And then basically everybody that buys Patriot gear knows that when you get your official Patriot gear, you take a picture of it and you post it online and tag me and tag the page. So it just exploded, dude. But here's the thing. It was never a plan to like build a brand. It was never a thing. It just kind of happened because what happened was as people started to embrace this thing, I was like, okay, you know what? This isn't just a clothing brand. This isn't just a bunch of people buying t-shirts. Like this is a movement. This is people standing up for something. And then I was like, well, what is that? And when I started thinking about all these people that were coming to the rescue of these businesses and helping these organizations and stuff, even though at the time, because it was, you know, August, September 2020, obviously most of them were Trumpers, right? But even though the media would tell you one thing about those people, not one time did any of those people ever reach out to me and say, well, is this person I'm throwing $20 at black?
Yeah.
Are they white? Do they wear a mask? Are they vaccinated? Are they Democrat? Are they Republican? Like, no one asks those questions. No one. Because you just don't do that.
No, nobody cares.
It doesn't. It's not a normal thing for people to ask those questions. Yeah. It's a media lie. And so through that, I was like, well, that's what this is about. And that's when Official Patriot Gear came up. It was the idea of spreading a message and reminding people of nonpartisan, non-exclusive, true patriotism.
Well, what is that? What do you mean when you say patriot, I guess, is a good question to ask now.
Yeah. So, I mean, my definition is literally, if you love the country, you love the people, you want it to grow and thrive and be free, and you're willing to defend it, that to me is a patriot. I don't care if you have pink hair and consider yourself a freaking he-she elephant on Wednesday, or if you're a Trumper sitting in Ohio wearing a MAGA hat. Like, if you love the country and the people and you want the best for it and you're willing to stand up for it, you are a patriot.
Right. Well, I guess to dig deeper on that, when you say the country, what is it that you mean by that? Like, because I go into this a lot, because I think about it a lot, so I like to think out loud sometimes, but it occurs to me that America isn't its geography or its system of government or any of that bullshit. It's like the idea that individual liberty is the most important thing. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think that's a lot. It's why I'm doing this show, I guess, organized around principles and not parties or specific people, because I've just grown tired of weakness, I guess. You know what I mean? It's there's a massive power and leadership vacuum going on in this country right now.
Yep.
And it's to me, it's very obvious that there's like a coordinated effort to demonize the idea of patriotism. And it's not just
very much so.
It's not just patriotism, though. It's like we shifted from this idea that you should be there for other people and help other people and self-sacrifice and things like that to self-care over the last 10 years. And I think that's the dumbest shit maybe that's ever happened to a society. I mean, you're taking the elements that typically infect the patrician class in a republic and lead to the demise of the republic, and you're spreading it across the entire country.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't make any fucking sense to me.
No, it's very much a coordinated effort, and I think it's calculated too. You know, I always talk about how I'm from New York. I'm from upstate New York, and I experienced 9/11, and I remember 9/12 and the days after that. Like, dude, it didn't matter who you were standing next to.
Yeah.
It didn't matter what side of the aisle they stood on. It didn't matter what ideology they had. None of that mattered. All that mattered was we're Americans, we have a common enemy, and it's time to stand together, right? But here's the thing. Just like we saw that, just like I saw that, just like a lot of other people saw that, our enemies saw it too. And our enemies are on our soil. That's the truth. I mean, call it a conspiracy all you want, but like, I feel like I believe that our greatest enemies are actually on our soil. And
I would agree with that. I think they're our greatest. I mean, every republic in the history of humanity that's fallen has fallen because of internal threats.
Yeah.
And I don't mean like Muslim terrorists working their way into the fabric of our society. I'm talking about the people who run the country.
That's right.
Typically are the fucking enemy.
That's right. And so to answer your question, yeah, it's not the geography. It's not, it's the fabric of what this nation was built on, which is freedom and liberty. And here's the thing too, though. This is where I rub a lot of people wrong sometimes. Freedom and liberty is freedom and liberty. Like, you don't pick and choose your freedoms, just like you can't pick and choose everyone else's freedoms.
Right.
So just because you disagree with something doesn't mean it's okay for you to tell them they can't do it. Whatever that is, take any issue that you want at this point. I don't care. The point is, unless they're doing harm to another individual, they have the freedom to do whatever it is that they want to do. That's the beauty of America. The beauty of America is someone isn't going to get thrown off a building because they identify as gay or whatever, right? Like,
well, it's like a crime, in my opinion, has to have a victim. Yeah. And I don't believe the state can be a victim. You know what I mean? Because that's statism, and we're not really into that here. Right. Like if you see it a lot recently, Russia, they're throwing people off rooftops, out of windows and shit just because they disagree with people. Literally. That's a lot. That's an extreme example. There's a lot of it in the Middle East as well. There's a lot of extrajudicial killings in Asia and Latin America. But just because we're not openly murdering political dissidents here doesn't mean, for example, we haven't for over a year had a bunch of them locked in prison without being charged. You know what I mean?
And nobody seems to even care about that.
Like to me, it's like the difference between a slow and quick death. You know what I mean? Like I honestly, I would prefer the latter. I don't want to. Yeah. I don't want to suffer indefinitely like that. And I think the powers that be in America are completely fucked.
I think here's the thing, man. It's like at this point, I think a lot of us are a freaking broken record. But here's the deal. The Holocaust, for example, it didn't happen overnight, man. It happened with years of conditioned indifference to what was happening around people. Yeah. It didn't happen because of the Nazis. It happened because of the German people.
Right. It happened because their cowardice and complacency.
It happened because of apathy and entitlement. The things that literally plague our society nowadays. Like, I always say, I think one of the biggest issues that we have, if not the biggest, is apathy. Is this idea that it's okay, things will be fine, I'll just sit back and let somebody else take care of it. Right. Or I don't want to rock the boat kind of thing. And it's like, dude, what you don't understand is, sure, your business might be booming and you don't want to affect that. But the problem is, if you don't say something, you're going to lose your business anyway. Yeah. And nothing's going to matter.
Well, it's like the first they came for the socialists. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's a very classic poem about the Nazi Party's rise in Germany. And it's meant to be a warning, not a roadmap. But we're not very smart here, so.
Dude.
But I get it. I mean, I understand why all the divisiveness and shit happens. We're tribal people, and the human condition is defined by conflict and overcoming conflict. And if there isn't real conflict, then we'll make it up. You know what I mean? And the easiest way to make it up is through the very obvious differences, either in who we are or what we believe. Those are typically throughout human history, those have been the ways that we've divided ourselves. The unfortunate part of modern society is that we have a lot more options than ever before and a lot more information than ever before.
Yes.
And people are still falling into the same stupid, dumbass traps. Like you have the ability to not only learn more, but communicate with more disparate people. When I say disparate, I mean like in background, race, religion, whatever the fuck. And, you know, now, and you also have the education to know that what tribalism is, how it affects society, how it affects you personally.
Well, you would think you did have that
yeah,
education.
well, I mean, we certainly do have that education. And instead of utilizing people to, you know, do the easy thing and not the hard thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, my advice to people is always to like find the I guess greatest common factor and commonality between the two of you. Most people just want to be left the fuck alone.
Yeah.
So start from there, right? How do we make sure everybody has what they need and are taken care of, and that we have common defense while making the smallest possible imprint on people's daily lives? That should be the goal of any government.
Well, and you know, and again, not to be cliche or broken record or whatever, but like there's a reason why the statement says united we stand, divided we fall. And it's like one thing that I always say too is, you know, we've all heard, oh, we're in a battle of good and evil, right? Dude, that's the truth. And the thing about evil is you don't negotiate with evil. Evil is stomped out. Like you do the exact opposite of everything that evil stands for.
Yeah,
and
imagine trying to negotiate with like a wildfire.
Yeah,
it doesn't make any fucking sense.
No, literally, there's no point. And so, but here's what I always say, dude: is the good versus evil. If you consider that good is full of every single walk of life. It's black, white, gay, straight, Asian, transgender, Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative, like every single walk of life. But the common denominator, or the thing missing, I guess, the thing that actually divides us as good is awareness of evil. Yeah. And who the evil is and what the evil agenda is. Because then the thing is, it's just like the 9/11 thing. Once all of the people in the good realize what the evil is, it's like, oh yeah. Like,
well, it's pretty easy,
you're not,
right?
You're not my enemy.
Yeah. It becomes really obvious what you need to do in those instances. But you know, in the absence of extreme circumstances, it's leadership that keeps people on task and on purpose. Yeah. And we just don't have it. I mean, the politicians in this country, the media in this country, they have made a concerted effort to keep people divided. Yeah. Right. And, you know, there can only be one reason to do that. If somebody's trying to divide you, they're trying to fucking conquer your ass.
That's right.
So, you know, I always wonder, just from my years of you know, doing gun related things, anytime somebody's trying to distract me, I always look over my shoulder because I assume somebody else is going to, you know, try to pull some bullshit. But again, I understand why people fall into this stuff. It makes sense because you're looking, you know, down to your very genetic core. You're looking for purpose in your life, and the purpose for human beings is typically defined by conflict. That's why Gandhi said, "If you want to truly find yourself, lose yourself in service of others." Right. Yeah. Yep. I feel like it's the only way, and it's not about just being altruistic or doing stuff for other people just to do it. It's because that's what fucking works, man. I mean, sometimes it works out the way. Sometimes the right thing is also just what works. That's right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's like you said too, going back to, you know, when you said when you're trying to divide people, it's because you're trying to conquer them. That's really the entire reason I changed my entire life. Because quite frankly, bro, I changed my entire life when I decided to get involved with all this stuff. And don't get me wrong, it's exactly like you just said. Doing the right thing has been the best thing ever because, you know, the people I've met, the networks that I'm now in, like even just sitting here with you, like that kind of stuff doesn't happen when you don't choose to stand for something or when you don't do something that you feel like you should or that you're called to do or whatever. But like, that's the reason why, is because when I saw those things going down, I was like, dude, this is the beginning of a very concerted effort to control the population, because that is the first step. You absolutely have to divide people. You have to get people fighting against each other before you can ever take over, because because when it comes down to it, it's the whole ants and crickets thing.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so, it's hard to see happening, but it's like, I also believe that there is hope. I really do. As fairy tales that may sound or whatever, like, I really do believe there's hope. And it's exactly what you always preach on this podcast is it comes down to every single person individually. And it comes down to us doing what a citizen of this country, what a good human being is supposed to do and what we should do. Because that's ultimately how we actually take the power back. You know what I mean?
Well, it's not even, I don't even think it's taking the power back. I don't think, like, the government and representatives of the government, they don't actually have any intrinsic power.
I guess I mean,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
no, I know what you're saying. I just want people to frame it in their mind this way.
Yeah,
the government exists because we fucking allow it to.
That's right.
You know what I mean? That's the only reason.
Yep.
And they know it just as well as we do, and that's why they want you to hate somebody other that doesn't look like you or think like you instead of hating them for robbing your ass blind all the time. You know what I mean? Like this whole fucking, and it's not even just what they're doing to the American public. It's like when you drone strike kids and shit, or when you're in Yemen, just like ethnically cleansing people with drone strikes, which is what's happening right now, right? And the U.S. is right at the epicenter of that. They're providing all the weapons for this shit. You are now trading on the honor of people, who founded the country and who fought for it. And none of these politicians have lifted a finger in defense of this country, nor would they. They're all cowards.
No, they're going to hide behind desks when there's people walking around with cameras.
But it's like, forget about all the stupid shit, the oppressive shit that the government's trying to do to us, and think about what they're doing in our name. You know what I mean? That makes me even madder. Yeah. Like if somebody's rude to me, I'm like, all right, whatever the fuck, man, I don't care. But then when imagine they're your employee and now they're being rude to somebody, like, all right, now we've got a problem because you're being rude on my behalf or you're being violent on my behalf, and that is unacceptable. Like I can deal with you one-on-one if you come at me, but if you start, if you marshal the resources of this country and go after other people in an unjust way, then that reflects very poorly on us for allowing that shit to happen. People are like, oh, a country is not its government or a people is not its government. That's true in a sense. Like they're bad actors sometimes. But while subjects are not responsible for the actions of their overlords, citizens are responsible for the actions of their government, in my opinion. And if we are to allow these people to persist in power and continue to behave this way, then it is, in my opinion, it's on us as well.
No, it is on us. It's 100% on us. This is where we are right now. Even if you just consider the stuff from the pandemic, right? Where we are right now, it's 100% because of us. It's because of the decisions that we've made. Because I always used to ask people, when at the beginning of the pandemic, like, okay, sure, people didn't know what was going on. It was very uncertain. You didn't really know if it was serious or if it wasn't or whatever. But very quickly, I think we figured out, okay, this is bullshit. Like, this is...
Well, unless you're like old, fat, or sick already.
Unless, exactly. Or unless you're literally just sucking down CNN every single day.
Yeah.
Like my grandma. But
it's a lot of people, man.
Dude, it is. It really is. But here's the thing. Most people, I truly believe this, most people figured out that it was not what it was said to be. And if you just consider planes, for example, right? You consider how many people were masked on planes. How many of those people do you think knew it was bullshit, but didn't take the mask off because everybody around them also had the mask on?
Yeah.
But how many people, if 15 of those people in that plane would have taken the mask off, guess what would have happened to the entire plane? That's just a small analogy, but it's like, that is exactly why we are where we are. It's going back to the apathy. It's people being completely apathetic to things and thinking, well, whatever, I'm not going to rock the boat. I'm just going to do what I'm told.
Right.
That is how it all starts. It's conditioned indifference to what people are doing. And and just letting those little inches be taken piece by piece. And it's like, dude, we're 2 years down now. And I make posts all the time on my Instagram that says, people always ask me, what is this about? I'll tell you right now, for those that have been asking. I always make posts that say from 15 days, and the 15 days are in quotation marks, right? To ... question mark.
Yeah.
Because it's like, dude, that's how it started.
We'll
15
see.
days.
Well, I mean, this isn't even frankly, this is not even the most egregious example in our lifetime. Like the TSA and the Patriot Act are way worse than what's happened in the last 2 years, but that's just part of our fucking lives that we accept now.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like the Patriot Act is, man, it didn't create the surveillance state, but it definitely made it stronger. And the FISA courts and all that stuff, the unbridled spying on the American public. The TSA was supposed to be a temporary measure. It's a permanent fixture that now costs billions of dollars a year.
Yep.
And accomplishes nothing. They don't do shit. So, you know, we come to accept these things. We trade a little bit of our liberty for convenience or out of fear or whatever it is.
I think it's out of fear. I think every time these things are put in place, it's like that's feeding on your fear, and you're giving up freedom for fear every time, a piece at a time.
Yeah. And it's, you know, if you think about political theater, and you know, if it was one group or another trying to fuck you over, you can deal with that relatively easily, I would say.
Yeah.
But when there's like a ruling class and a majority party and a controlled opposition party, which is what the Republican Party is, they're a fucking joke. I mean, just you live in Idaho. You're conservative-ish. You're probably libertarian, to be honest, if I had to guess.
I mean, libertarians more like live and let live, right? I do believe that we still need to take action, so I think I would consider myself more of like a constitutionalist.
Okay.
I'm all about what this country was founded on, and that's the way it should stay.
Okay.
You know.
Well, there's no just rack.
But I don't identify as a party.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't either. I rack your brain and tell me the last conservative thing that the conservative party, the Republican Party, did.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I can't think of anything.
No.
People might bring up like tax cuts or something like that. Okay.
There's always something in there for them.
Yeah. If you had made,
Always.
if it wasn't corporate tax cuts, if it was, and the tax cuts were permanent or it reduced the size of government, then sure, that's conservative. But just giving me a break for a year.
Yeah.
That's like, fuck you, man.
Yeah.
You're giving me my money back.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
you want me to thank you for it. Like if you came into my house and tried to pull this shit, I would fucking murder you where you stood.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Like this is completely unacceptable behavior. But again,
But we just accept it.
Yeah.
We just accept it because it's like now we're at a point where it's like, all right, well, that's how things are. But
yeah. Well, we've been convinced that to have all of this, to have the comforts of modern life, that we have to surrender our personal security and liberty. But why would that be the case?
It's not.
Like none of this stuff requires that the government control everything.
Nope. Not at all.
As a matter of fact, private business made most of this stuff.
Yeah.
Except for the internet. DARPA made that, but you know, it was computer scientists that really did it.
Yeah.
I don't know. So anyway, let's pivot a little bit. Because you know, one of the mantras of this show is that stop blaming the government
Solutions. Yeah.
and politicians for your problems because you're the one that fucking created them.
That's right.
But the good news is that you can uncreate a problem that you created.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like if the problem was created through complacency, then daylight and action will change it. But it's, you know, like a diet or your personal fitness. It's not something that you do for 3 weeks. It's a lifestyle. It's a change that you make in the way that you go about every single thing you do. Yeah. And I think one of the more important ways to do this, because people en masse will typically act reasonably and in their own best interest, right? This is Keynesian economics. They'll act in their own best interest and through that, when we all do better, we all typically do better, right?
Yeah.
As long as there's no predatory bullshit going on. So the divide and conquer strategy that's going on right now is specifically to keep that from happening.
That's right.
To keep you and I from not giving a fuck what each other thinks, but like, hey, you've got a good idea. I'm going to buy that good idea. The end. You know what I mean? That's the end of the fucking transaction. There's no more fucking bullshit going on in that conversation other than, hey, I like that product. I'm going to buy it.
That's right.
Whether your product is how you take care of your community, your actual physical business product, a service you provide, or whatever the fuck it is. And again, we've allowed ourselves to be distracted with all these stupid little tribalistic things that are going on in society right now, and the ways that they're trying to sort everybody. That's what intersectionality really is. It's like you take a human being and you reduce them down to their traits, and you call that their identity.
Yep.
And then you rank those traits based on, how they're affected by society and how society should feel about them. And then you rank everybody in order of how you feel. But that's a 360-degree firing squad because everybody disagrees on those things.
And we've done that.
Yeah.
We've done that. It's present right now. Just look at the way that anyone views anyone nowadays. It's all based on what they believe, what they think, their, like you said, their traits, whatever. It's not like it used to be or at least what I believe it used to be, where it was based on the character.
No, it definitely used to be like that. Like if you lived in a neighborhood and somebody moved into your neighborhood and you saw them over there moving, you're either going to go offer to help them move their shit. Your wife's going to make them some food and take it over there because they don't have their kitchen set up yet or whatever the fuck.
Right.
It was the standard, the implied task for anybody who was a member of a community was to make sure that everybody else in that community was taken care of.
Right.
It was also to make sure that if there was somebody trying to prey on people in that community, that we all get together in a posse, right? Like in the 1860s, and go take care of that motherfucker together. But you're never going to get that. You're not going to get that when people succumb to this fucking mind wash bullshit of divisions that don't actually exist. You know what I mean? Like this is they're just replicating caveman culture. Like, oh, you've got a slightly different brow shape than me. Fuck you. You know what I mean? But they articulate it in sociological and societal ways where people are like, oh, you know what? That guy is a piece of shit for
and dude,
for
it's
Trump.
an onslaught too. This is the other thing that people don't seem to understand. It's like the media, Hollywood, sports, every single thing that you watch and consume every single day has little tiny pieces of this information that is slowly making you form this ideology of what you're talking about, of intersectionalism, like where you're literally looking at people based on what they believe, what they think, how they act. Like that is a very concerted thing. And it's every single day, dude.
Well, it's called
an absolute onslaught.
Noam Chomsky in 88 called this manufacturing consent.
Yes.
And he was talking about how the Soviet Union uses propaganda. He won the Orwell Award for that, by the way, which is good for him, I guess. But so here's the definition from the book of what manufacturing consent is. So it argues that the mass communication media of the U.S., quote, are effective and powerful ideological institutions that carry out system-supportive propaganda function by reliance on market forces. That is to say, how you can spend your money, internalized assumptions, and self-censorship. That's a big one, right? Making people afraid to be who they are in public. And they do it without overt coercion. So this is the most effective form of propaganda towards societal control.
Yeah.
And we've known that this has been happening for over 4 decades now.
Yep.
Right. And we continue to persist. It's funny that a guy like Noam Chomsky wrote about this in 88, probably because Reagan was in office at the time. But I would love to hear if he agrees that that's what's going on now. Because it's very obvious that's what's happening now.
I guarantee you he would. Like what? I mean, how can you not? How can you look around and say that that's not what's happening right now? It's very, very, very apparent that every single thing we consume is pushing us towards this same agenda. And And it's, it's even like the thing you said, like self-censorship. I mean, dude, how many times in the last 2 years have you, having such a huge platform, been like, should I say that?
I never think that because I don't give a fuck. As a matter of fact, it does happen quite a bit to people. People ask me like, "Oh, do you think you should have said that?" I'm like, "I thought it, so I said it."
Yeah, fair enough. So
it is very common. I mean, I can see people, and I have less to lose than somebody that works for somebody else.
Yes,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I don't like to compare myself to other people.
No, but that makes sense.
Just because, like, I if you want to call it this, I'm in a privileged position where I don't have to listen to anybody's bullshit.
Yeah.
And most people can't do that, but I see people doing it all the time.
Yeah, I mean it's happening. I know I've caught myself doing it for sure. Now I don't have near the position you do, but at the same time, like I'm my own, I'm an entrepreneur. I don't have anybody telling me what to do. The only thing I find myself self-censoring is probably on social media because that platform is so, key to my business and to the things that I do. And so, but dude, I'll tell you something crazy. This is, if this isn't this was my wake-up call big time. But so one thing that I do that a lot of people know is I write my little boy. I write a journal for my little boy, basically like just about his life, about what's going on in the world, just everything, as if it's like a new journal entry for him, and then I'll give it to him when he's like 18 or something. But anyway, it was a while back. I can't even remember when it was now, but I was writing in that journal, and I was talking to him about COVID. And dude, I shit you not, I was going to write COVID, and I wrote C0V ! And I was like, whoa, wait a second.
Yeah.
Like, dude, this is pen and paper.
Yeah.
But it's been so ingrained into my brain that I have to censor that word or a lot of other words that I was literally censoring myself as I was writing on a piece of paper. And I'm like, dude, if that's not the example of 1984, I don't know what is.
Well, it's way before 1984. So the first and second century Christians used the ichthus fish. I'm sure you're familiar. The fish with the Greek word ichthus inside of it, right? So if you were to meet somebody in public that you thought might be a Christian or whatever at that time, because it was not safe to be one, it's like a challenge and pass almost, where you draw the fish and then they draw the word ichthus inside of it. That way you know that you're talking to somebody that, I mean, obviously that's not a perfect system, but that's not the point. The point is people have had to use methods like that to get around government censorship and state violence for a very long time. Probably as long as human beings have existed, to be honest.
Yeah.
And
do you think it's been at this mass scale though now with social media and things like that? Because I mean, dude,
no, it's way different now. I mean, so think about like ancient Rome, for example. If you wanted people to believe shit, you just have a town crier run around and tell them that, and they don't know any better. That's why the early church didn't. They kept the Bible in Latin until England translated it into English in 1511, I think, the King James version. Specifically because the church wanted to be the only route to God that people had, and the state also wanted to be the only route to God that people had. Keeping people illiterate, was a big deal as well. So you were able to control every piece of information that they got, unless it was just like random, people telling them. So think about that from the point of view of 2020 during the election cycle, and that's exactly the same thing that happened. It was just a different means of doing it, right? They controlled social media. They controlled
all
media.
the major mediums that you would use. Yeah.
So the town square now, where you used to have a town crier talking, on behalf of Caesar or Augustus or whomever it is,
big tech
to the people. Now it's just the fucking tech organizations. But we have a lot more capability to circumvent that now, right? So a lot more stuff does get out. It's a less effective strategy. But this is the thing that I always come back to when people are telling me about stolen elections and all this bullshit. Like, you don't have to hack a voting machine when you can hack somebody's fucking brain, dude. And by the way, there's also no paper trail for that. There's no forensic scientist that's going to come figure out how somebody's brain got hacked by just getting plowed in the face every single day with bullshit.
That's right.
It's so much.
And they did it for 6 years.
6 years, yeah.
For 6 years they did it.
Well, it's still happening now. I mean,
you
see a little bit leak out from time to time. Like the CDC finally admits that, over time, They admit things. I don't know if they've got a schedule
Yeah,
of this stuff.
they're just writing it back there. They're like, all right, so this date, things will probably be calm by then. Let's go ahead and tell them this.
So it's like mask work for about 20 minutes. That was one of them. They're like, oh, cool. So most flights are longer than 20 minutes. So this is fucking pointless. I think 2 weeks ago, there's a big data release that suggested 90% of people who were counted as COVID deaths died with incidental COVID, meaning they had it, but it wasn't like it had nothing to do with their cause of death. 90%, 90%, right? So all this data that was being used to shut people's businesses down, about 750,000 private businesses in America shut forever and will never come back. Like somebody's entire life savings are gone.
That's right.
750,000 people because of this bullshit.
Yep.
So you show me that stuff, and then on the other hand, you want me to also believe that it required somebody to hack a voting machine to no. It just
it's years of
it's Occam's razor, man. It's like the easiest solution is probably the one that's real.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And it's very obvious what's happening here.
Yep.
But sunlight's the best disinfectant.
Yeah.
You know, just educating people and educating yourself. And now I want to get into this.
Yeah.
Principle 8, I would reject divisiveness in all its form for those who are trying to divide us or trying to conquer us. Tell me why you chose that one to discuss today.
So, it was interesting when we were going through the different principles. I think I chose, if I remember correctly, one of them was the divisiveness. The other one was about doing something daily.
Yep.
And then the other one was basically living a life that's worthy
for.
of like the sacrifice that others have made so that the country can be the way it is, right? So 8, though, was an important one because that's literally what my message is built on. And the reason why is, again, going back to what we were talking about in the beginning, like I truly believe that there is hope, but the thing is that hope in my mind resides on the fact that we can find a way to come together and realize that we're not each other's enemies.
Right.
And somehow, dude, we with Official Patriot Gear, like we don't do a whole lot of advertising online anymore. To be honest, the first year was completely organic. And when year 2 came around, it was like, okay, how do we get more? Because we're basically just selling to the repeat customers. So we're like, okay, how do we build this community? How do we get more customers? Tried Facebook for a while. Literally, we got shut down every 3 days just for being patriot. Like it was absolutely insane. And like I said, dude, I'm just a normal dude, man. It's me and my wife building this business. Like I outsource everything. We don't have a full-on freaking headquarters. Like it's literally bootstrapped for us, right? And so we don't have just insane amount of capital to dump into ads every single day or whatever. And so anyway, I decided that that it was time to take it face to face because while the business obviously thrives as we're able to get sales, like that's just how it is.
Sure.
At the same time, it's really about the message that people carry when they wear the T-shirt or whatever. And so we started doing events. We started doing booths at like fitness events and like holiday events and different, things like that, like just anywhere we could go, pop-up tents or whatever. And it's so interesting, dude, because the conversations that we have are exactly this. It's like we'll have people that walk over and immediately assume that because it says Patriot, you're Trumpers, and they start going off on things about the insurrection.
I can't tell you how many times I've had to say, like, it's irritating now. I'm like, I don't give a fuck about Trump or any other politician, dude. Yeah. If you're rooting for a politician, that's like rooting for the umpire. Like, fuck off. Dude, what are you talking about?
It's like, dude, it drives me nuts. It's like I'm the same way. It's like, dude, don't get me wrong. I voted for the guy. I thought he did a great job. In a long line of presidents, I feel like he actually gave a shit about the country. But like at the end of the day, the dude had his own agenda too. He was a freaking celebrity.
Yeah.
Like if you can't see that he had his own agenda and he wanted to build a following and that he's like a smart marketer, like you're not paying, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's just like all of these people have agendas. At the end of the day, we are important. It's us as a people. It's like you always say, it's of the people, by the people, and for the people. And if we cannot figure out how to come together as people, then we're never going to get that back. And so when these people come up, it's so interesting because the first thing out of my mouth is always, I like Trump, but I think he crapped the bed just as much as anybody else.
Yeah.
And this is not about Trump, and this is not about X, Y, and Z. And then we have this conversation about what patriotism really is, and all of a sudden you have this person that it has in their mind, because once again, all the media manipulation to believe that being a patriot is a bad thing all of a sudden, or that it's this like political thing. It's the most asinine thing I've ever heard of, dude.
Well, you saw it happen over the last couple of years. So so it started with riots, then defund the police, and then all these major cities are like, all right, we fucked up here. Let's kind of quietly bring back the police a little bit. But then you go into the communities, and what you see is a bunch of rhetoric from the media, like, oh, what are you going to do when fucking black people start buying guns? I'm like, go shoot with them. What the fuck are you talking about, dude? Like,
train.
The fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, Maj Toure is a buddy of mine. I don't know.
Maj is the man, dude. I love Maj.
Like, he's one of the very few people, in my opinion, in the gun space that is a legit human being.
He's getting
it done,
what I mean?
Dude. Like, he fucking trains more people than anybody that I know. Yeah. Frankly.
Yeah. And very few, well, not very few, but I would say fewer people than should know about it.
Yeah.
Like, he very much operates without needing the praise for it.
Yeah,
because he believes in what he's doing.
You've got to be, when you've got a good idea sometimes, and it's why I wasn't overly critical of, Trump from the branding perspective. I thought being an asshole was a mistake for him, but from the branding perspective, if you have a good idea, I really do think it's imperative to market that idea properly. Not just imperative. I think it's a duty. Like, if you've got a good idea that can help people, then it's your job to make sure that people know about it, right?
For sure. Yeah.
And you got to stay above the fray on that stuff, and it's difficult sometimes.
But that's what I mean though, is when you have these conversations with people, all of a sudden they start to realize, oh yeah, okay, if you're saying this is what patriotism is, then yes, I consider myself a patriot. But like, they never would have come to that conclusion if you hadn't had that conversation. And so few people are willing to have that conversation because they're so wrapped up in everything else. It's this idea that patriotism is now nationalism. Now, this is another place where I think I rub people wrong, because nationalism is what actually got Hitler where he was. Like Hitler started with patriotism and then it moved over to nationalism. That's the thing. That's the fine line, right? But the difference, dude, is the difference is nationalism is love and appreciation for someone's country to the detriment of others. Yeah,
like that's not America first doesn't mean America only.
That's what I say literally all the time. Ask any, like, that's one of my only messages when I'm talking about this is America first doesn't mean America only. And I always use the analogy because I think it's the best one, is like, dude, if my family is drowning in a river with a bunch of other people, right? You better believe that I'm going to dive in and save my family
for sure.
long before I ever think about saving anybody else. But at the same time, once they're safe ashore, I'm going to dive back in and try to save other people. And guess what? Not only is there nothing wrong with that, that's what you should do. And so the America First policy, people have twisted it to believe that it's all about nationalism, when no, it's just about taking care of us and then we can't take care of others until we are in a place to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you see, man, it's crazy, dude. Recently a buddy of mine passed away, and it's like, you look at what's happened with him in that industry, veterans specifically. Yeah. And out of all the homeless people in our country, 10% of them are veterans. What do you think we could do with billions of dollars as far as that goes? Yeah. How many veterans could we pull off the streets? And that's just a small portion of things that we could do to better this country. You know what I mean? But instead, we're sending it over to, like you said, do all these other things that obviously are not in our best interest. But I guess the point is this, man. It's the divisiveness, I believe, is what's actually causing the issues that we have right now. Us believing that we are each other's enemies, while our true enemies are winning a war without firing a single shot.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem, right? It's if you're a group of 550 or so elected officials and several thousand unelected bureaucrats, and you want to control people, you can't do it by force.
No.
Because it doesn't work. There's too many of them.
Nope.
So you take their collective force and you direct it towards each other instead of towards you. That's right. All it is. It's like a shitty person trying to start a fight between two people to distract them from what you're doing. You know what I mean?
Well, and I think you said it too. I believe I heard this. I don't know if it was in the pilot or if it was in one of the episodes with Andy or something, but I believe you said something like, it's also created this idea that it's a distraction, right? Like I always tell people, I have a lot of people that ask me every once in a while, like, hey, do you get a lot of hate from the left? Like, how much hate do you get from the left and everything? And dude, it's so funny because every single time, you want to know my answer is, I actually don't get a lot of hate from the left.
Yeah.
You know where I get the hate from? The right.
Yeah.
I get the hate from the far right conservatives that think that I'm a grifter because I sell Patriot tees, or the people that are all up in arms because our t-shirts come out of Nicaragua and they're not made in America because we can't afford to freaking make those kind of products and then sell them. And as much as I would love to do that, but it's like that same person is coming at me with an iPhone from China.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean? And it's just like, that's the hate that I get a lot of hate from far right Christians that consider me a Satanist because I'm a metalhead and I throw up a rock on symbol every once in a while. It's like that.
Yeah, by the way, that was created by Kiss. It's because he was holding a pick in his hand. I mean, the Rolling Stone did a story about this back in the fucking 80s.
Yeah.
Anyways.
No, dude, it's
so fucking stupid.
It's so stupid, but this is all. I think our biggest issue is the fact that we refuse to believe that we can have different ideologies, different beliefs, and think different things and be okay.
Well, I also think that people think that you can do that passively. Like if you just leave everybody to their own devices, everything will work out. Well, that's not really true, right?
No.
Every relationship in your life, whether it's with your spouse, your friends, your children, even your coworkers and shit like that, or business partners, those relationships require daily maintenance. You know what I mean? And also, reflection unaffected by delusion.
Yeah.
So it's like, those are all action words. It's not live and let live. That's not appropriate, I don't think. It's like, I see my neighbor, I'm going to go fucking talk to him. Hey, you need anything? Cool.
Yeah.
Good.
And
that way, not only like you're setting the standard there, because I tell people this all the time, and Andy actually does this. They're one of the few companies that do this by principle, but Andy will walk through First Form headquarters, and like if he sees something dirty or trash on the ground, he picks it up.
Oh, dude, it's
front
way
of
more
everybody.
than that. Their freaking weights are always.
Well, sure, yeah, but I'm just
aligned,
saying, him as the CEO of the company, will go out of his way to make sure people see him doing the right thing.
Yes.
And maybe it's like, oh, you're spotlighting yourself. No, you're being a fucking leader.
And everyone follows.
Yeah.
If they believe in that leadership, they follow. I was actually just.
But if you tell people that COVID is the most dangerous disease of all time, and that they have to stay home and wear a mask, and then you go to the French Laundry with all your buddies, people are like, "Oh, you're full of shit."
Yeah.
Right. So even like that's the thing that really should scare people, is that this is the ultimate. Like, I think that the TSA and the Patriot Act and the creation of the Department of Homeland Security were technically worse for the country than what's happened the last 2 years, but this was the biggest cry wolf episode in human history. And if some real problem comes around, we're fucked, because nobody's going to listen to these assholes at this point.
And that, dude, I actually talk about that a lot too, because it's like, okay, you can believe what you want, whether you believe that there was an agenda from the beginning or whether you believe that they just absolutely shit the bed and they had no idea what was going on. Either way you look at it, the amount of distrust that now exists in every institution in America from the American people, you're right. If something comes along that's actually serious, that's it, man. Like, it's going to be game over, because no one is going to believe it. But that also is just even more proof that we're the majority and not the minority, that the majority of the American people want transparency. The majority of the American people want, dude, we want to trust the government. We don't want to have a distrust in the government and in the organizations that are out there. No person with a normal head on their shoulders wants to, like, feel like we can't trust the people that have been put in place to take care of our well-being or whatever. Like, that's just, it's not a thing. And it's like, if you want us to trust you, and if you want these people to stop speaking out against the government or against whatever institutions are there, give us a reason.
Yeah, sure. I mean, but you got to like be there for the right reason in the first place. So, New York Times report came out yesterday that I believe, hold on, let me check and make sure that I'm not speaking out of school here. Sagar. I always love Sagar and Yeti stuff. He always finds good stuff. So about 1/5 of Congress, so 20% of Congress have stock trades in their portfolio that show conflicts. So 20% of the government is just doing it out in the open.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And again, it's like I said, it's the conditioned indifference. The populace is like, all right, whatever.
Well, think about how people react to shit. Crenshaw comes out and gets criticized for it because he's like one of the top stock performers. I guess that's what you learn in Buds, is how to trade stocks better than everybody in the world.
Yeah.
Right.
You're just really lucky.
Huge coincidence.
Yeah.
But he said, somebody asked him if he thought Congress should be allowed to trade stocks, and he goes, well, yeah, I mean, if you want the best and brightest, why would they come here and serve if they can't profit for themselves? Like, did you really just say that? You're a fucking sailor. You're a Navy SEAL. And you said that shit out loud. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? That guy's a giant piece of shit.
Yeah.
And anybody that thinks that way is a piece of shit as well. But it's a function of this is one of the things I say a lot is that people who desire power very rarely deserve it, and people who deserve it very rarely desire it. And I think that is an iron law. There are very few exceptions to that. And
I would absolutely echo that.
Yeah.
Man. You look at the people that just in the last 2 years decided that, okay, well, you know what? I'll try to get involved. Of course, all of them got smashed by the system, but like my friend Ian Smith. Like, I don't know if you've talked to him yet, but he's
yeah, I know Ian.
Dude, he's one of the best, and it's like he is the exact example of that. He didn't want to run.
Yeah.
He did not want to be a politician. No part of him wanted that. No part of him wanted people to freaking infiltrate his life, and yet he jumped in the ring, trying to make a difference. But it's like that's someone came by my house during these last elections and left a flyer, and they said, hey, can we put the sign in your yard? And they're just picketing for the candidate. I'm not going to mention them, but they were like, will you let us put this in your yard? And I was like, well, tell me why. And they were like, oh, well, this, that. And they just go down the laundry list, and I'm like, no, tell me why.
Yeah.
And they couldn't. They're just like, oh, well, they're da, 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 da. And it's just the same talking list. And I'm like, right, okay. So then this other guy comes to my front door, knocks on the door, says, hey, man, I'm so-and-so. I'm running for this. This is why I'm running for this. I'd love to have your support.
Yeah.
All day, that guy has my support. All freaking day. Because that is the true leadership that we need. And you can tell that that's not a person that's like, I want to get in office because I want to make X amount of dollars. I want this or whatever. It's like they are truly doing it for the people. And we got to get back to that. Yeah. But again, going back to this whole divisiveness, like that is what's, I feel like, will allow us to get back to finding people, good leadership, right? I was doing a podcast with Greg Anderson. Do you know him? So we were talking, he came to my house and we did one of his podcasts, and we were talking about how having a healthy amount of, rebelliousness.
Yeah.
Right? Like all of us.
Sure.
I think if you looked at all of our lives, we probably didn't have the most squeaky clean childhoods.
Yeah.
When it came to school, when it came to whatever. I mean, I spent most of my life in a freaking detention room.
Oh yeah, big time.
Right? And you're told your entire life, oh, that's a weakness. That's going to cause you so many problems in life. You're not going to be able to lead. You're not going to be able to do this. You're not going to be able to do that. And it's like, no, you know what? That was a superpower. Having the ability to see what people were really made of. And it's like, for me, a leader proves themselves before I follow.
Sure, yeah.
And so it's like going back to Andy, right? Like, people follow Andy because he's proven himself as a leader by doing the things that you're talking about, right? That to me is what it actually takes. And so we just need to get back to that. We need to get back to leadership and politicians, if that's what it is, like showing us why we should believe in them, why we should follow them. But the problem is, like you said, there's so many freaking Crenshaws out there that's like, I just want to line my pockets. I don't give a shit about you or anybody else.
Well, you got to wonder about the motivation of an institution like American education that tell children that the most that obedience is the most important trait a successful person can have. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's fucked up. That's a really fucked up thing to tell a child.
Not only obedience, but the whole system is. I mean, dude, you got a degree, right? You have a master's, don't you? Yeah. So I have a bachelor's degree. It doesn't do anything for me. Literally nothing. Like for me, it's like, okay, cool. I made it through school. Pat on the back. It's more of an accomplishment than anything, right? But it does nothing. And the fact is, the majority of the system, the schooling system, it teaches you how to take in information and then regurgitate it back exactly how they want you to.
Sure.
Think about what that means, man. Think about what kind of, what that's building in society. We literally are made up of a bunch of people that have spent their entire lives being told, you learn this and you send it back just like we're supposed to.
Sure, yeah.
Just that.
Well, it's because, American education is designed solely to produce compliant workers, right?
100%.
That's really all it is. And all of these people that are trying to defend public schools in America right now, they are completely fucking full of shit. I've never seen a more, like, the American education industry is far worse than the American political system, in my opinion, because they prey on children.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I can deal with politicians, but people who go fuck with kids and shit like that, that's now it's like a problem.
Now it's personal.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think to come back to, the solution part of this, you have to trace things and find out where the breakdown happens. So if you're learning, if you're a conservative person or a liberal person and you're learning everything you know about the other side from CNN or Fox, then you're fucked. Like, that's the wrong answer. Talk to actual human beings and ask them what they think. And my friend Michael Schellenberger likes to say this. He likes to say, when you use words like Trump and Biden, smart people get real dumb real fast, right?
Dude. Yeah.
So it's like, forget about all that shit. Don't talk about conservative or liberal or Republican or Democrat or any fucking politician. Say, hey, how do you feel about just, leaving people the fuck alone, maybe? Or what do you think we can do as a group, and start at the lowest possible level to make sure all of our needs are met, and that there is a safety net for people who need it. But it's a safety net that has a little spring to it, so you bounce back and you become a productive member of society again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that's the point. It wouldn't be the first time that a country's done this. As a matter of fact, Northern Europe's pretty good at it, typically. Countries like Sweden, for example, there's no limit on unemployment for them. There are state agencies, or the state-funded agencies that are essentially nonprofits that, let's say it's creative destruction, the learn to code thing. Well, there's no more coal mining. So, okay, cool. You got to come over here. Your industry's done. Let's be frank. Your industry's done. We're going to retrain you. You're going to go get a job and get the fuck out of here. Yeah. The end.
Yeah.
Right. That's what an effective safety net looks like. It's not 40 years of generational welfare to keep people on the tit and to keep them from having any kind of upward mobility at all. You can have conversations like that with people, and they will have that conversation with you. And the more you talk to people about very specific policy things, and the more they hear it coming from somebody that doesn't look like them, and the more you find that you agree on more things than you disagree on, the less power all these assholes in the media and politics have.
That's right. And you just got to have those conversations. And it's like, dude, I'm not the smartest guy. Like, I'm not the smartest. I'm not the most successful guy on the planet. I just am somebody who, it's always funny because I always had people ask me, and they still ask me, where's your sources? Like, what were your sources? How did you know, what were you listening to, or what were you watching when you started to realize that everything was garbage? And I'm like, my eyeballs.
Yeah.
Like, my eyeballs and my ears. I literally went out in the world and I talked to people and I saw how things were, and I said, okay, this isn't what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing on the media or whatever, right? But people have gotten to a point where they're allowing the media, the government, Hollywood, whatever, to literally become their eyes and their ears.
Yeah.
And it's sad, dude, and it's really scary, but it's like, you're right. All you need to do is have those conversations with people, and then you need to be willing to stand up to it. The whole, like, the thing that drives me absolutely insane is whenever I hear people talk about the silent majority.
Yeah.
It's like, dude,
fuck that.
The silent majority is not a badge of honor.
No.
And if you think it is, like, you're missing the whole point.
No.
The silent majority is the reason why we are where we are.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's what I said this on the last show, but I think that's what Jefferson meant when he said the tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants. I don't think he was inferring or requiring or even saying it's okay to just have constant violent conflict or anything like that. It's like, no, from time to time, we all need to reconvene and be like, all right, this is fucked and this is fucked. Get rid of those things.
Well, dude, and you know what's interesting to me is most people don't even want to do any research into our founding fathers and the Constitution and things like that. But like, dude, this country was founded on compromise.
Yeah.
It was founded by a bunch of guys that, trust me when I tell you, they did not agree on everything. As a matter of fact, some of them were pretty dark dudes. Some of them did a lot of really shady things.
Alexander Hamilton was a total piece of shit.
Bro, and then you have Alexander Hamilton and John Adams.
Yeah.
And like you have the Alien and Sedition Acts. You have all kinds of things that happened during that time where it's like, dude, if you would have put those guys in a place where they had all the freedom that they needed and they still had to come together and make decisions, it would have been a hell of a lot harder. But the reason why they were able to come together and the reason why the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and the reason why this country is founded in the first place is because they did agree on one thing, which is we don't want to be ruled. We want to be free, regardless of what that cost is. And it's like, we got to get back to that. That's having that conversation with people of our freedom and our liberty is the most important thing. There is nothing more important than that right now. And people need to start realizing it because their kids are going to pay for it, not them. Like that's, if I'm being honest, the main reason why I started speaking up, the reason why I freaking flipped my life upside down is because my boy, I had just become a father, and in my mind, I'm like, dude, I feel like the ship's going down. It's going down. And from a, we won't get into this, but from a religious perspective, like I think if you're a Christian, you know that things got to get really, really bad before they can get good, right? That's just kind of how that's what we believe or whatever. But it's like, even if the ship is going down, if I'm on that ship with my family in the middle of the ocean and there's nothing I can do, dude, I'm still going to do everything I possibly can to keep them out of water as long as I possibly can. Yeah. But there's too many people in this world that are like, I'm just going to go chill in the stateroom and let us drown. Yeah. I'm just going to give it up. It's like, what the hell? I got 2 hours left. Like, I might as well just do it in peace. And it's like, dude, that is why our ship is sinking.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. But, it's just a symptom of a complete lack of leadership. So it's good, that people are getting more involved in talking about this shit publicly now. Hopefully we can turn this shit around. We got to get out of here now. But before we do, tell if there's anything else you want to share with the audience, and then tell people where they can find you.
Yeah. Just my Instagram. It's iWendtster, IWENDTSTER. And then our Instagram for the company is The Official Patriot Gear. The website's officialpatriotgear.com. And just, I don't know, just kind of, if you want to know really what we're about, it's everything we've talked about. Like when you wear a Patriot tee, when you wear a Patriot hat, whatever it is, believe it or not, you're actually sending a message, and the people that are wearing it with you, and we're not massive, but we're 48 countries and 30,000 orders now after a year. And it's like, you're going to run into people that are wearing it and they're going to know what you stand for. And it is what we've talked about. It's not divisiveness. It's unity. It's realizing that, hey, it's okay. We might stand on different sides of the aisle, but like, this is the most important thing right now, is to come together for the freedom and liberty of everybody, and to speak about it and try to get involved and make, a difference when it comes to those things. That's really what it's about. But no, man, I appreciate you having me on. Like I said, sure. I've listened to you on Drinking Bros and things like that. And I'm actually super excited to like learn from you. Cause like I said, I don't consider myself the smartest person on the planet, but I know that, I enjoy actually listening to you because you know a lot of shit, dude. And it's cool to actually hear somebody that knows what they're talking about and has the experience to back it. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to be the best citizen that I can be. And I think all of us, if we can do the same, we might have a fighting chance.
Sure. Well, thanks for coming out, man. I appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you all for listening. This has been Citizen.